Hello, world, and welcome to the first of many different podcasts that I plan on doing. And if you're new to me, hi. My name is Dominique Nash. Welcome to the Nash House. And it's really time to heal. So, we're going to get into it. And if you're not following, just know that this podcast is going to be streamed on Twitch, TikTok, Facebook, and we're going to get some healing done today. But I'm going to come on the screen. What's up, guys? There is a little bit of a disconnect that I feel happens whenever we as people are trying to evolve. Now, normally I use this stream to game, but it's been placed on my heart to to let the gaming go for now and really talk about healing. Now I'm gonna check with to see how the stream is looking on other platforms. Hold on. Really, I'm going through a season. Well, I've been on a journey for about 10 months of spiritual awakening and healing. And on the path of healing, you will always have to face what stopped you from being your authentic self as a child, what stopped you from growing. That's what I was asking. I'm glad that you made that comment. Sorry, guys. My husband is looking at the stream and he said it's so small. I don't know what happened to the capture of it, but it made me so tiny. So I'm gonna make myself bigger. Hopefully you can see me. So on this healing journey, I'm gonna turn this music off for a minute. We're gonna pause it. On this healing journey, I not only had to heal my current adult self, but I also had to go through and heal my inner child. I had to go through and heal my teenage self. And I have now been called to heal my young adult self. And a lot of us are not used to doing this process because, well, I can't speak for a lot of people, but I can tell you, a woman like me was brought up by a narcissistic parent. And being raised by a narcissistic parent, you cannot speak your truth. You cannot speak up for yourself. You cannot disagree. You cannot have boundaries. So, me sharing this is for a specific people who can feel comfort from my story. So, I learned two things from my parents. I learned how not to wear masks from my narcissistic mother because all she does is wear masks. And what I mean by mask is she can never really be her authentic self with anybody because she does not really like herself. I don't know what happened to her in childhood, but she is never healed from that. And my father, I learned how to detach because he was severely, um, still now, he's almost, he's in his mid 60s. Still now, he is severely detached from things. So I've learned how to use that pain from both, heal myself, and now I consider it to be my superpower because once I had a chance to go back and really take a look at the lessons, not so much focus on the pain of the lessons. And then I started to realize that maybe my childhood trauma, healing it is the key, but it's also a testimony to help others. So throughout these 10 months, I've gone through sharing. I've shared when it comes up and when God wants me to. And I had to heal my inner child, which I shared how I really didn't always have a safe space at home because it was a lot of chaos. Check. Healed this current version of myself by continue on a path. And if you're seeing me on platforms, this was the path that it led me on before I even went through the healing. And the challenge is that at a time where I should be celebrated, I was judged by the people that I came from opening up social platforms and being transparent on them. So that was what I had to heal with my adult self and doing the work. Let's just call it what it is. When you heal a part of yourself and you do the work and you embrace the pain, but you look for the lesson. When you do that, it allows you clarity and it allows you an opportunity not to repeat the cycle. So now I'm in this stage where I'm trying to heal the young adult part of myself. And if you are connected to me on my social platforms, then you may start to see those posts start to come up in your feed. I want to make this completely as clear as I can. This part of my testimony is not to attack anybody. It is literally a version of healing out loud. And people who get offended, which it will happen because I'm telling my truth, when they get offended, I'm not doing it to offend you. I'm doing it to completely heal myself so I can be the mother that I desired. So I can be the woman that God is calling me to be. So I shared a post this morning that, or yesterday, let's go back yesterday, because this all start coming up yesterday. Yesterday, I shared a post about me going no contact with any person that I came from. I have no contact with them whatsoever. And for a lot of people, they just do not understand that. They're like, how could you? And my response to that is that my peace is worth much more than having superficial relationships. Meaning, I had to stop a cycle of mental manipulation, emotional abuse. I had to stop a cycle of not having boundaries so I can help my legacy with my children go further. And in doing that, it does not serve anyone to remain around the people that you're healing from. Long story short, you cannot heal where you have been hurt. You can't heal in that environment. So, this is just the beginning of healing. I'm going to take a brief intermission so I can charge my computer. So music will be present. The mic will be muted. Come on in and you're welcome to witness healing out loud. This will be my therapy session. I welcome you for it to be yours, but I'll be right back. All right, guys, and welcome back. So, if you're new, welcome to the Nash House. My name is Dominique Nash. I'm the mom of Welcome to the Nash House, and I've spent 10 plus months going through a spiritual awakening, healing myself inward so I don't search for the wrong things outward. And I'm going to share my story with you. So, I was born from a broken vessel. My mother and my father, they got together out of the necessity of really, my mom needed somewhere to go. Her mother had kicked her out. She had already had a baby at 16, and her mother did not really, she had 8 children and she only really kept 1. Okay. And my father's mother was sold to a man when she was 12 years old. And she was forced to bear 22 children and did not even know how to write or read. This is the broken vessel that I was born through. Now I have an older brother that is my mother's son. It is not my father's son. He's 8 years older than me. So he was present already through the chaos. So when I came along, I don't really remember much before I was 9. I just knew that we always had my mom's brothers living in our home, and it was chaos. And when I say chaos, most of my uncles really struggled with drug addiction because they were abandoned. They did anything that they could to survive, meaning that they stole things, they robbed people, they did whatever they had to do. And that was all present in my home life. And it caused me to thrive in chaos. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but my escape was things that were on the TV. And I found myself trying to heal my parents, which were, now I know it was never my responsibility. Okay? But I did try. Now at 9, my life changed. I became a woman. And this means that I started my menstrual cycle. And I only really remember a lot from that point on because everything for me changed. I was forced to dress like a boy. I could not embrace my femininity because of something that happened to my mother that she still has not talked about within her childhood. And it created this dynamic of people pleasing for me, because if I did what she wanted, then she would love bomb me. So I'm talking about more of a narcissistic parent. Okay. My dad, even though he was in the picture, he was a complete hermit. And I learned from him that he just was not attached to anything, not even to himself. So growing up in an environment like that, where you see so much brokenness constantly, you develop like really bad nerves. So I'm talking like I had eczema everywhere. Like my nerves was just so bad. And sometimes it was just really hard for me to connect with people, because when you go through living in a home like that, you're told that what stays in a home, what happens in a home stays in a home. You can't open up to people. And I was always an honest kid. I liked to shine my light and share, and I would always get shut down. So it would cause a complete imbalance within me to know what I could and could not share. So I wouldn't talk. I would only talk to my grandmother, which was my dad's mother. I was with her a lot until she passed away at 11. When I was 11 and a half, I was almost 12. And after that, it just seems like I didn't have anybody that really truly understood me. And when I kind of recollect that a lot of the physical abuse would happen with my mom was when I was 12. And what I mean is like, I crack jokes about this. I used to crack jokes about it. And people would laugh, and I would be like, they don't even know they're laughing at my pain. But, it was a way for me to express it. But I was not allowed to ask my mother why. If I asked her why, the first time I did it, I think I was in the bathroom, I was 12. And I was doing something to my hair, and she was on the phone in the kitchen, washing dishes, frying chicken. And she asked me to do something in the kitchen, and I was like, why? Because you're already in there. And I didn't realize she had called me over to the top of the stairs. And I came, and she pushed me down 12 steps and said, the next time, don't ask me why. And I used to tell a story about cracking a joke. It's like, my mom crazy, Don't ask her why. And people would laugh, and then she would say, "Why you keep telling people that?" And I said, "Because it's true." She was like, "Yeah, but I don't want people to know that about me." Because she still does. She wears a lot of masks. And at some point I realized that maybe this is happening to everybody. I thought this is what I thought. I thought that everybody parent was like that. I thought everybody had a mom like that. Until, you start to get older and you start to make friends and you realize that there's all different type of mothers, because everybody's different and their trauma is stemmed from somewhere else. So I was like, okay. So my mom is overbearing. She doesn't allow me to be feminine. I cannot ask her questions. I cannot set boundaries. I go and I make friends and I see that their mother is a single mom, and she's so withdrawn that she would get off work while I'm over there, and she had a lock to lock herself in a room. And I said, there's so many people dealing with trauma in the wrong way. And what God put it on my heart is that it's a generational curse. And I said, that makes way more sense. It's something that is passed down and learned from each generation of women, because the women are the ones who primarily take care of the children. So that makes sense. And the more that I share my journey and the more I have to heal, the more I understand how I am the generational curse breaker. So after me turning in my 20s, I had to deal with my brother going to prison, my mother and father splitting up, my mom moving a guy who was only 5 years older than me that she was cheating on my dad with into my home that was in my name that I paid the bills in, and constantly being physically fought every time I tried to establish a boundary and say, I don't want him here. And me speaking up, her way of gaining control was that I was disrespectful. And each time that we had a breakdown, because this continued, each time we had a breakdown, I would forgive, because you got to know, being raised in this type of programming, it creates an obedient child like a dog. It doesn't create an ultimate human, ultimate woman. No, it creates an obedient dog. So I was under the premise that I was doing what was right as a child, right? Even though I'm an adult child, I'm thinking that this is what I'm doing is right. So I'm still trying to stick by her. We reconcile. Everything will go great, and I can still speak up for myself a little bit. But every time we have a breakdown and I get love bombed to come back and I try to stand in my truth, the cycle will repeat itself all over again. This broken cycle. And we would fall out. And I had a memory come up on my phone. And it said 7 years ago. And the picture was like my face all scratched up. And I remember that day. It was a day that my mom had physically assaulted me in front of my children. At this time, I only had 3. And she was living in our home. Me and my husband. We were living in a single family house that she did pay the deposit for us to get in. She needed somewhere to go. And we needed to move so we can all have enough space. And she put down the down payment, the security deposit. And we had to pay her back. But after she put down the security deposit, she thought that she was the ruler of the house. And it was not like that. I mean, I'm married. I have 3 children. I just had my 3rd child. He was in a car seat and stuff like that. And I was on leave from my cosmetology job. I had took a leave of absence to have him. And while I was at home on my leave, she had to get a job. So she got this work at home job for like a tax company because it was around tax season. And the manipulation started to try to come through again. Well, since you have a college degree, you should do this job for me and then we can split the payment. You're not doing anything. I'm at home. I just had a baby. And it is your job. I cannot do your job for you to get paid. That's illegal, you know. And so she was getting frustrated because the manipulation wasn't working. And so I was standing my ground, but then my brakes stopped working on my car. And she had a car. And so I asked her, I said, well, can I use your car to go pick up my husband from work? And she was pissed. She was mad because I would not do the work at home job for her. And I was like, okay, this don't make any sense. So I grabbed her, the keys. And I had my, the baby that my third child, I had him in a pumpkin seat. So I had it on my arm. And she chased me out the front door. And my oldest was probably about 7 or 8. And my second child was probably about 4 or 5, or maybe 4. And we had just moved into this neighborhood. So she comes outside and she starts to physically punch me. And if you are a child who was severely manipulated and had to deal with emotional, mental, and sometimes physical abuse, you don't fight back even though you're an adult. I didn't fight back. The only thing I tried to do was shield myself, and she knocked the car seat out my hand with my son in it. I was so grateful he was strapped in. So it flew in the yard, but it got back on the right side, and he was screaming. My kids were screaming. And all around, she was just fighting me. I had scratches all over my face and everything, and I told her she had to leave. And I went ahead and got in a car that was not safe for us to go get my husband. And I remember sitting, because I didn't want to go right back home. I remember sitting at the McDonald's with my husband and my kids, crying, and I took a picture of myself. And my face was swollen, and I had scratches all over my face. My hair was all pulled. And I told my husband that he may have to take the kids because I'm stuck with her. That's how manipulated I was. Because I felt like, well, what I was programmed to think is that it was my job to always take care of her. It was my job to be there for her. That's what I was programmed to think. And my husband said, no, she will need to leave our home. So my brother, my older brother that I told you about, she calls him, and all she has to do for him is to say that I'm disrespectful. And now he has this iron guard mentality up where he's willing to do anything for her. Because all he heard was that someone was disrespecting his mom. And he didn't even care it was his little sister. So he comes over there to try to tell me, as an adult who's married with 3 children, who is housing our mother, because he has nowhere for her to go. I'm housing her. And he tells me that she's allowed to put her hands on me as a 20-something-year-old woman. And I said, no, she does not. And she will have to leave here tomorrow. That night was a hard night. She left, and she was so upset that her and my brother decided that they were going to come back and try to bust out my home windows. and the amount of fear that my older children felt, I was ashamed that this fear was being caused by their grandmother and their uncle. But I did what any rational adult would do. I called the police. And still to this day, they are upset that I even involved the police. But what else did you expect? If you come over to someone's home and you bust out their windows, or you try to, and you're kicking at the door to try to kick the door in, and their children are screaming and crying and do not understand why their grandmother and their uncle are terrorizing their safe space, there is nothing else that I can do but to call in the law. So time passes. I didn't talk to her for 6 months, and she would still pop over my home without my permission and try to force me to talk to her. And I thought that I was doing what I was programmed to think. You have to forgive, you have to open up, try to reconcile. Tried it again. Tried it again. And this roller coaster just has been continuing my entire life. And so last year, my husband and I got word that our landlord had sold our home without, he didn't even tell us. He just sold it and said, hey, these new people, you got to deal with them. And we had to face an eviction for being, I say, about 10 days late on the rent. And the moment that we had to deal with that eviction and we had to go without a shelter, nobody wanted to be there for me. And I have to be honest with you, I was okay with that because I was with the people that mattered. I was with my husband and my children and my dog. And that began the journey for the no contact. And all of a sudden, sometimes she would reach out and I would be receptive because, you know, I'm out here living a different type of life, you know. So we ran low on funds towards, because we were homeless for probably about 6 months. We ran low on funds the fifth month. And I had called her because we didn't have anybody else to call. I called her and said, hey, can we spend the night until the Airbnb opens up for us tomorrow? And she agreed. And she had moved. And so we all slept in her living room. And then the next day went by. We went to the Airbnb. She kept in touch. I was receptive. And then she tells me that my brother is in some type of trouble again. So she's kind of like spacing out. She's panicking. And I feel the need to be there for her, if that makes sense. Because at this time, our roles have reversed. My brother used to be the one that run, and I was always stuck. Well, after all of the stuff that I had to deal with, I was finally the one that had to run, and he was the one that was stuck. So with him being detained and her not having her constant buddy to talk to every day, she was calling me. And she also is responsible for taking care of my great uncle. So I kind of wanted to be there for both of them. And things happen like they always do. Money didn't line up for us to get a temporary place to stay again. And so I said, hey, we really don't have nowhere to go. Can we come there? And she agreed. And probably not even a day went by where chaos started to erupt. And it was because I didn't let her know where I was, constantly call her and let her know. And it was stuff that I'm I don't understand. Like, I'm 30 something years old. I don't call you every time I make a move, but having to stay under her roof, this was going to be what she required, and I'm not used to that. So I'm like, well, if you leave, that's fine. I'll call you when I'm ready to come back and see where you are, and I'll just have to wait. It's no big deal. And I think she got angry about something, and I hung up, and I ended up twisting my ankle. So my ankle was purple. Worst time. And so she goes to her evening job, and she comes home and my kids are asleep. It's like 11:30 at night. And I done hopped in the shower. My husband's helping me. We're taking a shower, and I can hear her slamming the doors. And I'm like, I think mom's here. And earlier that day, she told me that we weren't allowed to use her washer and dryer anymore, because something broke on the dryer. It was old. It was a hand me down that she got from someone, and my husband tried to fix it. And anytime you try to do anything for her, if it breaks, you're gonna have the blame for it. That's just the name of the game. So we weren't allowed to use the wash and dryer, even though I'm hopping on one foot, and there are no clean towels. And my kids have to bathe because they are still in school, and if they don't bathe, the people know that we're homeless. They will try to take my kids. So I'm like, well, they have to bathe. I don't know what you're gonna do. You need to go to the laundromat. This phone call. And my husband was like, we'll just go buy some towels from Walmart. So that's what we did. So when she comes in the house, she's angry because I'm taking a shower. And we come out, and I say, hey. And she's like, how did you take a shower? And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, I told you don't wash no towels in here. I said, I didn't wash any towels. I just went and bought some. And she just flew off the handle. I don't know what I'm going to do about these bills when you leave. And you just so irresponsible. Like, it was unloading of everything for her. I sat there and I listened. And I said, well, if it's money that you're worried about, I don't have any problem giving it to you, but we had to get clean. So we bought towels, just kind of brushing it off. And then she said, well, you guys are in here taking lover showers, and you're going to cause your uncle to play with himself. And I'm like, what? He's never displayed those tendencies, and he's been around me my whole entire life, my great uncle, which is her uncle. And this ties back into whatever happened to her in her childhood. And she was accusing him of doing stuff and tied his hand down. And I was like, you are really, like, I think you really need help. And it just exploded from there. Woke my kids up, turned on all the lights, and called me all type of names in front of my kids. And I mean, it was chaos at 11:38 at night. And so my husband's like, hey, let's table this, let the kids go to sleep, and we will all handle this as adults in the morning. And she told him to shut the F up and don't tell her anything in her house. And he was like, excuse me, like, these are my kids. Your granddaughter is crying. And she said, oh, you ain't understand what I said? And she went to go get her gun out of the room. And the only thing that stopped her was me recording. So we got put out that night. We got put out that night with nowhere to go. And that was the last time I had a conversation with my mother. That's the reason I went no contact. It didn't just affect me anymore, it was constantly affecting my children. And then after all of that, when we did get housed, she called my daughter's phone and was texting my daughter like nothing had happened. And it really, really hurt her. It hurt her. So I changed my daughter's phone number. And I apologize to her for continuing the broken cycle of forgiving and then allowing them in. There's one thing to forgive, but the moment that you keep allowing that person back into your life, that same behavior, if they don't do the work, it's going to keep repeating. So it's a broken cycle. It's a literally broken cycle. So that's the reason I go no contact. That doesn't mean that they don't reach out. It just means that I don't respond. Even sometimes if I go live on my YouTube, not my YouTube, my Facebook, she's still one of my followers on one of my pages, and she'll comment when I'm telling my story, but it's not about her at this point. At this point, it's literally healing out loud so that I can heal that part of me that's still hurting and move forward and evolve. And sharing my testimony is going to help someone else who's probably stuck in those same cycles of brokenness. And hers started with her mother not wanting to have her, not wanting to hear her, not wanting to love her. And she did the exact same thing. For me, I had to go no contact in order for me to heal and be the mother that I always needed and be the mother that my children, they need. Each time I tell this story, there's a part of me that is able to not only forgive, but to heal. And the healing part is the most important key so I can look for the lesson. The lesson that I learned from that 38-year stint of having a narcissistic mother, I learned how to set boundaries. If I can set boundaries with her, then I can set boundaries with anyone. The lesson that I learned from my father was detachment. Not so severe as his. He has his flaws too. But I learned that how to let go of things, people, places, and things that don't serve my highest self. So why am I sharing this with you? Because there's someone who, if you're on my YouTube channel, because we're live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. If you see this, it will come up on purpose from whatever you're dealing with. And I'm hoping that my story will help you to set proper boundaries, help you to understand that what you experience is not normal, help you to understand that you should be able to speak your truth without manipulation, without backlash, without physical altercations, without chaos. You should be able to stand in the storm and stand on your integrity and your story. And I'm hoping that it inspires you to tell your story. Because the more that we share our trials and tribulations, the more others can overcome the situations that they might be stuck in that we are no longer a part of. I hope that resonates with you and you understand. This is not an easy journey of healing. It is the most difficult journey I think I've ever been on in my life, but it's so worth it because it's helping me get back to my authentic self. So I posed a question for all of you who will see this later on YouTube. What is it that has happened in your life that you have never told a soul that has stopped you from being your authentic self. Whatever it is, go back to that moment, feel the pain, but don't focus on it. Focus on what you have learned from it. Once you focus on what you have learned from it, then you will be able to apply that lesson to any type of roadblock that forms itself in your life. It will lead you to ultimate healing, and it will send you on a path of self-discovery. I thank you guys so much for taking the time out to listen to my story. And I hope that it provides you the clarity, the understanding, and it sparks inspiration for you to heal yourself too. Be blessed, be great, and be you. I love you.